Hello, Thyroid Thrivers, and welcome back to another episode of the Thyroid Healthy Bites podcast, with bi-weekly episodes dedicated to helping you eat well, live well, and feel well. I'm Ginny Mahar, a functional medicine health coach, cordon bleu chef, and your thyroid health and cooking coach. So if you're ready to get inspired, informed, and empowered with thyroid-friendly food and lifestyle topics, expert interviews, and tales from the healing journey, you're in the right place, friend. Let's dig in. Hello, Thyroid Thrivers, and welcome back to the show. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Today I want to cover, I don't want to call this myth busting because I don't really think it's a myth, but I guess what we're going to be doing is more of like some fact checking and taking a microscope to a nutritional claim that has gone viral. I was made aware of this question of, is it bad to combine bananas with blueberries, by one of my Thrivers Club members. And she was asking because someone had shared a photo. We were doing this Eat the Rainbow Wellness Challenge. So everyone's trying to get all their, 6 colors of the rainbow in every single day. And we have like a wellness challenge where we've got our checklist, our rainbow checklist, and we're scoring ourselves. And it's so much fun. It's one of my most popular wellness challenges inside the Thrivers Club, and people get really inspired because it's colorful, it's fun. It's just a wonderful way to up-level your nutritional intake without thinking about restriction. Instead of thinking about what you can't have, you're like, oh, what red foods can I have? And these foods need to be plant foods, right? It can't be like Skittles, So we were doing this Eat the Rainbow challenge, and one of my members had shared a photo of a smoothie that she had made, and she loves smoothies, and she's actually shared a smoothie recipe on the Hypothyroid Chef blog with us. It's called Paula's Chocolate Cherry Delight. If you want to check that out, it's absolutely delicious. It's got avocado in it. It's so, so good. Paula is like a smoothie queen. I am too. So I'm with Paula on that. Of course, we're adding protein to our smoothies, but I find that I thrive on fruit as long as I, kind of balance it out with protein and don't overdo it on super sugary fruits. And also, it's a great way to get in those colors of the rainbow, to get in fiber, to get in the things that are hard for us to get enough of in our diets. And this other member saw the picture and she was like, hey, this brought up a question for me because I saw that, or I heard that combining blueberries with bananas, like in a smoothie, can impact their nutritional properties and make them less effective. And I just thought that I'd point that out, Ginny, and see if you could shed some light on it. Because I used to combine bananas and blueberries in my smoothies, and I've since started eating them separately. So, she was asking me, like, what do you think about this? And I'm so glad she asked. I did some digging, and I maybe some of you have seen this, maybe you haven't, but there was basically this viral TikTok video that was based on a study. This is the thing with, The alternate title for this episode is also why we shouldn't get our nutrition information from TikTok or social media in general. Okay, we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but it's kind of a problem because the things that people have to do to get the eyeballs and the clicks and to grow their channel is they have to be like kind of extremist, kind of inflammatory. Controversy is what sells. And actually, you'll hear this all the time, as like an online entrepreneur, I've heard a lot of these like coaches, business coaches be like, you have to be controversial. And I think what we're seeing in today's society is the result of what happens when everybody takes, some like, seemingly benign information and makes it as controversial sounding as they possibly can. It sows division, it sows misinformation, it sows confusion, it makes people afraid to eat bananas and blueberries together, people. Like, we shouldn't be afraid to eat bananas and blueberries together. And I'm going to tell you why. So I did do some digging. I wanted to shed some light on this and see, did I miss something here? What's going on? So there was this viral TikTok video claiming that adding bananas to smoothies will, quote, destroy their nutritional value. That is untrue. That is controversial, inflammatory language that creator used to get more likes and eyeballs and followers and all that stuff. That's kind of the problem. And it gets me a little fired up about social media. And this is why I have kind of like a love-hate relationship with it, because it's like, I want to connect with you on social media, but there is a lot of that kind of stuff going on that just makes people so much more confused and afraid than they need to be. Okay? So I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. Take this for what it's worth. I'm looking at this through the lens of someone who spends a lot of time online and does a lot of has to do a lot of discernment of information. And also I'm looking at it as a functional medicine health coach who's always, I want to know, like, what are these new studies coming out? And is there something here that I need to know? And so I spend a lot of time in PubMed and looking at this research and kind of trying to parse it out. And also I look to the experts to see, well, how are the doctors and researchers interpreting this information? What do they have to say about this? So kind of taking all that into consideration is what I do when I do research for my content, for my different blog posts and things like that. So that's what I did when I heard this claim. I found that viral TikTok video, I saw the original, and then I did some digging. And what I came away with is that I don't put too much stock in that claim that you should not combine blueberries and bananas in a smoothie, and here's why. So this viral TikTok video was based on this study that looked at how bananas impacted our absorption of flavanols from the blueberries. And flavanols are just one nutritional aspect of many that are in blueberries, okay? This study was based on 8 people. And what they found was that the flavanol absorption was significantly lowered by consuming blueberries with bananas. Now, the fact that this study involved just 8 people is kind of one of the first red flags. It's a very small sample size, okay? So for something to be like scientifically or nutritionally or medically relevant, we're going to require more research. And the good thing about those small studies, which can be very useful in that they can sort of let researchers know, like, okay, more studies are needed. There's something here. All 8 people showed this same result where they weren't absorbing as many flavanols when they added bananas to their blueberries or combined those 2 foods in combination. That was an interesting result. But 8 people is just too small of a study. It means that we need more studies. It suggests the need for further research, and it's not enough to draw definitive conclusions, okay? Now, the other thing that can be kind of problematic with these nutrition claims on social media is that the information has to be shrunk down. It's got to be something that can fit on a meme or fit in a very short video, or fit in a 10-slide carousel post or something like that, okay? So it's really hard to give complete context with these things. And I mean, I've even struggled with that with my social media content. It's like, I can't really share. There just isn't enough characters allowed. There's not enough, length allowed on this reel to really portray the whole complete story of this. And I do my best. I really do feel strongly about trying to maintain integrity to that and not spread food fear and not spread misinformation and not just, spread controversial ideas for the sake of getting followers, which is something I just fundamentally disagree with and I think has actually done a lot of harm in our world. But what happened with this particular study is that it was taken out of context and it really just looked at the flavanols, okay? And so what this Thrivers Club member came to me saying what she had taken away from this guy's super inflammatory language about, adding bananas to, quote, he said, adding bananas to berry smoothies will destroy their nutritional value. Whoa, 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 wait a minute. That's out of context, okay? That's not what the study showed. The study showed that bananas impacted our absorption of flavanols from the blueberries. And as one really well-respected nutrition expert pointed out, our absorption of flavanols, which is one of many nutritional compounds in blueberries, is generally pretty low. So around 2 to 20% absorption rate when we're consuming flavanol-rich foods. So is there like this need to be afraid to add blueberries and bananas together in a smoothie? Should we really be worrying about that when the vast majority of us are not eating enough produce, vegetables, or fruits? We're not eating enough. We're relying way too much on processed foods. Now we're afraid to eat healthy foods like bananas and blueberries. So that's a problem to me. So anyways, this nutrition expert pointed out that there's really not a whole lot of need to worry too much about how you're pairing, flavanol-rich foods with other foods when those flavanols aren't even very bioavailable. Like, how much impact are we really talking about here? And another thing, when we're looking at the context of this claim and this study and all that it looked at, is that, interestingly, flavonoids, which include flavanols, so flavanols are what are called a flavonoid, flavonoids can actually inhibit your thyroid function. So that raises the question in my mind, do we even want to maximize flavonoid absorption as thyroid patients in the first place? The other thing to keep in mind is that flavonoid thyroid connection is another thing that's probably going to be outweighed in most cases by the other nutritional aspects of flavonoid-rich foods, like the cancer preventive qualities of blueberries, for example. So again, we got to ask ourselves, like, how much do we really need to be afraid to combine blueberries and bananas in our smoothies? When we look at the entire context, that this study was 8 people, it only looked at flavonoid absorption. We have a low bioavailability. Our absorption of flavanols is generally low. And then you also add in that flavanols can actually potentially maybe inhibit thyroid function, like maybe similar to the way goitrogenic foods can, which is another thing. Experts are now like, eat goitrogenic foods. These are life-giving, cancer-preventive, nutrient-dense foods. Just cook them. Okay, I don't want to go down the goitrogen rabbit hole too far on today's episode, but just as like a parallel example of where, let's not take one little study that was done on rats, which is what happened with goitrogens. Let's not take one little study that wasn't even done on humans and make these sweeping statements that make all thyroid patients fearful of eating dozens and dozens of colorful, nutrient-dense plant foods, when all we really need to do is cook them whenever possible. And honestly, for most people, they're able to tolerate raw goitrogenic foods in normal amounts as well. So, that's kind of what the experts realized when they said, wait a minute, let's look a little bit closer at the research and studies that this claim is based on to, for all thyroid patients to avoid goitrogenic foods like broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage and things like that. And when they took a microscope to that research, they found that this just doesn't hold up. And really, the benefits are going to outweigh any potential harm. And the risk of that harm is so low that, then you compare that to making people afraid to eat something as healthy and protective to your health as broccoli. That's a problem. So again, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a researcher. Am I qualified to say, I interpreted this study and this is what you should do. Absolutely not. I'm here giving you my interpretation for what it's worth as a health coach of why some of these claims that are made on social media can be really problematic in spreading unnecessary food fear. They're oversimplified. They're based sometimes on one study, in this case, a very small one study, taken out of context of all the other nutritional stuff going on with bananas and blueberries. This isn't, even my opinion. There's articles on this online written by people more qualified than me saying we should not be losing sleep over putting bananas and blueberries in a smoothie together. What we should be losing sleep over is not eating enough fruits and vegetables in general, not getting enough fiber in general to support our digestion, to support a healthy microbiome. So when you start to think about all those different aspects of what a food gives us nutritionally and the context that it comes in and how all those things come into play, like that flavonoid thyroid connection, is this even something we want to absorb more of as thyroid patients? I don't know, but I think it's a worthwhile question. So I just wanted to share that with you, not only so that you don't have unnecessary food fear, but to encourage you to do your own digging. Before you unnecessarily pull something out of your diet for no good reason. I think anytime there's a need to pull an otherwise healthy food out of a diet, it's worth some further digging. It's worth getting out the, magnifying glass to look deeper. It's worth talking to expert healthcare professionals about that. It's worth, doing our own Googling to look into, is this really worthwhile for me? Sometimes it is. There's plenty of people who are very sensitive to otherwise healthy foods like nightshades, for example. For some people, those otherwise healthy foods are inflammatory to the point that they're not going to the harm outweighs the benefits there for them because it's going to lead to inflammation. It's going to flare up their joints, could flare up their autoimmunity, could flare up digestive symptoms, could lead to gut issues and things like that. So there are certainly cases where that is worthwhile to say, this healthy food isn't healthy for me. That can certainly happen. But social media can just spread a lot of nutrition myths and misinformation because the most controversial content is what tends to get the most attention. We've all done it. We've all witnessed ourselves like, oh, wow, that just caught me because it had tension. There was this hook of like, oh, shit, this guy's telling me that this is going to destroy the nutritional value of the blueberries I'm eating because we know blueberries are one of the healthiest foods and we want to be healthy. And I'm not going to put blueberries in my smoothie anymore. And then next thing we know, we're afraid to even have a smoothie because if combining these two fruits is bad, maybe combining other fruits is bad. And it can just snowball and become more, we can make mountains out of molehills. And when we look deeper, a lot of those overinflated claims that are really inflammatory on social media in order to get the clicks and the likes and the eyeballs and the comments and all of that, when we look deeper and more closely, oftentimes they just don't hold up. And even well-meaning experts, I think, can sometimes present information in a way that spreads fear or confusion, or just the nature of social media in the way that it gives us these tiny little bites of information taken out of context can also spread fear or confusion. And the next thing you know, we're all afraid to put bananas in our smoothies, which, by the way, are a really great source of potassium, which it happens to be a key nutrient for thyroid function. It's also an electrolyte mineral that is very helpful for a lot of us as thyroid patients. And now, of course, this is not medical advice. This is just sharing information on thyroid nutrition because it depends on you. There are people out there with different health issues where potassium is like something they may need to avoid. So we're all unique individuals, but just generally speaking, potassium is something our bodies need. So when it comes to thyroid healthy eating, it's really easy to get caught up in the details and to worry about every little thing. And sometimes, that fear is founded and the dietary changes are worthwhile. Sometimes even cutting out, like we talked about the nightshade vegetables, for some people, even cutting out those otherwise healthy foods is worthwhile because those foods might not be healthy for us as individuals. But really, in the big picture sense, the truth is that the best strategies are often the simplest ones. And what I do, one of the things that I do is, again, like I'm not the expert making the recommendations. I'm the health coach with my ear to the ground. I'm listening to the podcasts. I'm reading the books. I'm personally interviewing the experts. I'm listening for those common threads of what do they all agree on? What are they all saying in unison? And I'll tell you, focusing on colorful, nutrient-dense whole foods for our overall health, vitality, and well-being. We're not getting enough fruits and vegetables. We're not getting enough fiber. A lot of us aren't getting enough protein. Some of us need to be looking at our fats, like shifting from unhealthy fats to healthier fats, kind of basic overarching, nutritional recommendations that the experts all agree on here. But in this case with the bananas and blueberries, what the experts say is enjoy your bananas. And if you like them in a berry smoothie, don't overthink it. I'm going to link in the show notes to a really good resource on this from Very Well Health. If you would like to read more, that's where I got a lot of the sources and information in interpreting this study. So you can check that out if you want to know more. And of course, the best thing to do if you ever are unsure about whether or not something is right for you, talk to your healthcare provider about it. Talk to a professional dietitian or nutritionist, and just know that there's a really strong bio-individual component to that. There is no one size fits all. So use your discernment, get out your magnifying glass, be choosy with what experts you follow, be choosy with what kind of nutritional tidbits and advice you listen to on social media, because that information we feed ourselves is like a different form of food, and we want to always feed ourselves the highest quality food that we can find, and that includes food for our mind. That includes the information that we consume. Thanks so much for spending this time with me and tuning into today's episode of the Thyroid Healthy Bites podcast. If you've enjoyed today's show, please don't forget to like, subscribe, or leave a review on your podcast platform of choice. Your support makes this show possible. For more thyroid healthy food and lifestyle inspiration, check out my free library of thyroid-friendly recipes and lifestyle content at hypothyroidchef.com and the Hypothyroid Chef YouTube channel. As we wrap it up, head to the show notes for information and links to everything we talked about today, along with the link to my free thyroid-friendly grocery guide download. I'm Ginny Mahar, your thyroid health and cooking coach, wishing you happy cooking, happy thriving, and the best of health. See you next time.